Okay then, ladies and gentlemen of Romsey and Petersfield and Cambridge and anywhere else in the world who might be interested, you may or may not by now be aware that I am standing as an independent candidate for the Romsey ward. I've been canvassing this week. I've been out on 3 sessions and we've had an open evening at the Salisbury Club. And people who have been paying attention may also have been aware that I am treating the canvassing as a opportunity to take a actual opinion survey of the residents who I meet. And in yesterday's roundup I mentioned that I am collating this data and I'm going to share the results. And so on this Sunday the 7th of April I decided to actually sit down and compile what I have been told, all the pieces of information, what's important to Romsey residents. And bear in mind, this is only the end of the first week. So let me just round up for you where I have come to, how I have done what I've done so far. Excuse me. Right, this is Will's independent survey for the Romsey ward. These are the results after the first week. It's the 7th of April. Alright. So to start with, let me just show you my handy ward map. Whoops. This is the train line. This is Mill Road Bridge. This is Mill Road. This is Coldham's Lane Bridge. This is Coldham's Lane. This is the Sainsbury's Roundabout. This is Brooks Road. Next we got Carter Bridge. This is Argyle Street. And then now we've got Cromwell Road and Sidgwick Street. This is Brampton Road with a little bit of Fairfax. Here's Catherine Street. Thoday with the rest of Fairfax. And then this is Ross Street. Here's Cavendish Road. And then these little notches represent the bigger housing developments on Cromwell Road. So you've got Winstanley Court, etc. And this is Romsey Terrace, this little guy down here. Here we have St Philip's Road, cuts through all of these guys. Now we've got Vinery Way and Vinery Road, which leads down to Suez Road. That's Suez, not Sewers. This is Hemmingford Road, and that goes down to Ruth Bagnall, which extends down to Coleridge Road down there in the south. Here, this little cluster is Malta, Belgrave Road and Romsey Road. And then these guys are Cyprus, Madras and Hobart. I should just point out that this is not 100% accurate, this map, but this is just for me to keep in mind where I'm at and to visualise what I'm doing. This is Seymour Street, and this little development is where the health centre is found. Technically that's just part of Mill Road. And then this is Wycliffe Road, which comes off Brooks Road. This little guy is the Paddocks, and this is Greville Road, but that's not an accurate depiction. That's just how I can show where we're talking about here. And then lastly, of course, you've got Stourbridge Grove up here. Alright. So this is the ward boundary, pretty much. This is the Romsey ward. Over here you've got a body of water and some off-roady bits. This is where you find Sainsbury's. There's a recreation ground here in between Ross Street and Vinery Road and at the top of Hemmingford Road. And then let's get some pubs on here. We've got the Empress in its nice handsome blue, which it's just repainted itself earlier on this year. And then of course you've got the Earl of Beaconsfield down right now next to the bridge. I give it this nice handsome brown colour. Then the Brook off the other end, that's green because it's a Green King pub. Royal Standard I've given a kind of golden yellow because it's royal. And then you've got the Salisbury Club right here, which I've made blue because originally it was a conservative club, and I tried to avoid red because red is the colour I use when I mark things on here. You've got the community centre on Ross Street, and then what's this? Oh yes, the healthcare centre, and you got some clinics here, another health clinic here, and a dentist here. Alright, so there's all your little health needs. Of course, I want to include on this map, just beyond the train line at the top left here, we've got the Beehive Centre. Because although it is just slightly outside the Romsey boundary, of course it is very important as it services a lot of people's needs. And with the proposal that that is going to get taken away, that is going to become much more important as time goes on. What's next? Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that you've got a roadblock on Vinery Road, Vinery Way, which is roughly here. Alright, so you cannot drive through there. Okay, so here we've got the ward, pretty much. So as I mentioned before, I went canvassing over on Coldham's Lane on day one. This was what I covered on the first day. All of these houses here. I went from top of Coldham's Lane down to the Sainsbury's roundabout in the morning, and then I did Brooks Road in the afternoon, all the way down to the dentist. And then I actually went into the Brook and booked that for next Tuesday. Tuesday the 9th. It's actually 2 days away. Another open evening if you want to come along and chat. And maybe even argue, which is also a likely possibility these days. But anyway, what's next? We've got, of course, before this all happened, after the first day, before I did any more canvassing, I had the night at the Salisbury Club, just here, which was a good, interesting evening, gave me lots to think about, and the video is available online. If you want to watch that back, you may do. Neil Mackay recorded it. I also got some footage of myself from a different angle, but I feel Neil's footage was clearer. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the results of all these things soon. I'm just showing you what I got up to on day 2 of canvassing, which was down here at Argyle Street. I covered all of that in the afternoon and early evening. And then on the third day, which was yesterday, I went down Cromwell Road and Sidgwick Street. I didn't actually make it all the way down Sidgwick Street because I got fed up. But Cromwell Road proved to be fruitful. I got some good feedback from that. And by the way, when I say that it was good, I don't mean it was good because I just found lots of people who agree with me. I'm not going out there looking for results which I want to find. I am just wanting as much feedback as I can get. Because it's all good. It's data, isn't it? This is an honest survey. I'm doing a genuine, honest opinion survey about what is important to Romsey residents. So here next I went in the afternoon, did Sedgwick Street, and I knocked on every door down that first half, and only one person talked to me. That's why I said it wasn't actually a very fruitful afternoon. I got fed up with it, so I went from Sedgwick Street over to the Empress, where I booked the Empress for another open evening, which is going to be on Thursday the 18th. Okay, so that's what I've got so far, and I'm going to carry on, and we've got, 3 weeks roughly, just about, until the 3.5 weeks until the voting day. I could probably get about 10 more, maybe 12 more sessions in. So I'll cover in some of these areas down here and up Ross Street and, the other areas. You see, I'm going to try and cut into this map in segments so that each one of these stints is like a little snapshot. I've let go of the idea that I'm going to be able to knock on every single house. Obviously, that's just crazy. But I think I'm going to go up here over to Stourbridge Grove one day. I could do the whole of Ross Street in one day. I could go from Brampton Road all the way down Catherine Street in one day. That sort of thing. Oh, and then of course you can actually just go along the whole of Mill Road on a whole day as well. Anyway, so each time I go out, I want to now share with you the kind of feedback that I'm getting. Okay. So that's the map. Where are we next? Let me just pause this. Okay, so here we've got the results page for day 1. This is Coldham's Lane and Brooks Road. On this day I knocked on 135 houses. I had 47 conversations. I found 27 people against the closure of the bridge and 1 person in favour. Okay, and then I ask about other issues or other comments that they might want to make and jot down what they say. So here is a list of the things which were told to me on that stretch of road. Broken handrail on footbridge. There's a footbridge which crosses over the railway line. Apparently that's dilapidated and the handrail's broken off. The community is divided. It was divided over the issue of the bridge, unfortunately. Potholes, of course, we're going to hear a lot about potholes. Cycle paths not joined up. Everything's bitty. Those were his words. Things are not necessarily connected very well. Cyclists should be made to read the highway code, one woman says. They whiz down the footpaths and go through red lights. There are constant roadworks in Cambridge. Worried about the congestion charge. This person doesn't vote because they're all corrupt. It's an understandable point of view, I must say. It is. I sympathise entirely. This person used to vote Labour but just can't now. Not the only person who said that. And this person actually told me that they appreciated my work, and thank you. Somebody asked me, are they going to put a 5G mast on Coldham's Common because they had heard that but didn't know there wasn't enough information. They would need more information. This person feels that the local council have become too authoritarian, and that was a quote. Things being fair is the most important thing, and I tend to agree. It's not necessarily so important what you do, but how you do it. And it is possible to make changes to society, but they have to be fair and not unfairly advantage some whilst disadvantaging others. That's just on a human level, on a basic level. That's not okay. They make traffic jams worse with road restrictions and closures. They've cut down the bus routes, so I need to drive. Closing bridge causes more pollution. You've got our vote, this person said. That's another quote. Potholes and pavements again. Should have traffic calming near the school. Remember, this is down Coldham's Lane area. So they would like to see... I think they used to have traffic calming, they told me, but it's just become faded over the years and there's no enforcement. They would like to see a 20-mile-an-hour zone past the school. They've lost faith in Labour. They remember the congestion charge. They're disillusioned with Labour. Never voting because it won't make any difference. Too much wrong with the world. And again, I understand the point entirely, and it's sad that people have been, arrived at that conclusion. But this is the world that we live in. When the elected politicians so consistently don't do anything or achieve anything, is there any doubt or is there any wonder why people just become despondent and apathetic? This person would prefer Mill Road to be a one-way street rather than just simply closing the bridge. This person didn't know anything about it. They've been waiting for an independent... Oh, this person, I remember. They said they've been waiting for an independent to stand because they have just seen how the current councillors are so bad and don't do anything. They were very enthusiastic in their support of my candidacy. This person, again, ready to vote independent after the direction Labour have gone. Transparency is the most important thing. The congestion charge is a concern. The fact they may return, I mean. And then things happen through the back door, one person told me. Nobody is really representing me, they said. Now, this one is... I put a star next to this one because this is important. I'm going to go back to it later. Basically, it says, education is shit. That was a quote. I said, what do you mean? How do you mean that? And she said, basically, She has an autistic son who's been out of school for 3 years due to not getting something called EHCP, which is basically the money and support that they would need to be in education. Homeschooling is very difficult for her. Many parents are in the same situation. And I have put a circle around this to go back to because I told her that I would need to understand a bit more about it. That sounds like a much, much deeper and probably more important issue than anything else. But it's in another area, so I'm flagging it up and putting a circle around it. We're going to go back to that because this is, I think, the understanding that I was getting was that there's supposed to be support and there's supposed to be finances available for parents who have children with special educational needs, which are there to help them get the education they need to support them into their adulthood. And that is just not happening at the moment. The phone lines don't answer. There's no help. There's no help forthcoming. The system is kind of broken down. So yeah, that's a big one. I need to understand more about that. So like I said, I've put a ring around it, put a star next to it. We're going to go back to this later. Alright, so thank you for that comment. Next, I'll give you a go. Yes, I'll vote for you. I'll consider it. Just some quotes there from people who are thinking about, or in fact have already decided to vote independent. Alright, now that was a 7-hour session. 10 till 6 with a lunch break. And that's the end of day 1. Alright. So before I got back onto the streets doing the door-to-door stuff, there was a open night at the Salisbury Club, which I've already talked about on the blog. I had a reflection on camera on the night itself, but this is me actually just writing out the actual experience of what happened on a kind of results page for this thing, and this is all feedback. This is all also my changing understanding of the situation that I've got myself involved in. Alright, so the main takeaways from this night is I recognised quickly the danger for things to descend right back into argument and debate about the bridge, which is exactly what happened. After half an hour or so of talking about the candidacy in general, it quickly degenerated back into a debate over the bridge. So I was reminded once again how close to the surface all those tensions are. But we had quite a good debate. But the main thing for me from this night is to realise actually that Mill Road Bridge situation is still a very, very divisive issue, and actually Romsey needs now some way to reconcile and move forward productively, constructively, to figure out the actual long-term solution for Mill Road, because as it stands, it seems to have reached a bit of a stalemate. In no small part thanks to myself, of course. But anyway, let's try to work it out. Alright, so this is what I wrote down. 25 to 30 people attended the night. There were 2 in favour of closing the bridge, and in fact I'm pretty sure they were members of Mill Road for People or Cam Cycle. But they're welcome, of course. I just find it funny that these people sometimes think that they have to go in as spies and maybe secretly record, which they don't, of course. I'm open to you. I've, in fact, from the beginning of this thing, been trying to reach out to you guys and talk to you, and it's just a shame that it's taken me this long to actually finally meet you. So, like I said, these 2 guys were at the meeting, and everybody else was against the closure of the bridge, and so they had to have it out a little bit. But this is what made me realise that this is a very, very delicate topic and quite a delicate situation, and it's going to have to be carefully managed. All must be welcomed to share their point of view. That's the first point that I wrote down here. Of course, everybody is welcome, no matter what you think. The bridge is still a very divisive issue. There is a need There needs to be an open forum where anger and frustrations can be honestly aired and vented without fear. A common ground is needed. Productive conversations must be had in order to go forward. Polarized debate needs to be carefully worked through, and compromised solution must be sought. Hopefully the divisions can heal. Alright, that's an idealistic worldview there, but it is also probably the closest thing to a practical solution that anyone's come up with at this stage. The first step towards solving a problem is acknowledging that there is a problem. And if nobody can even talk to each other, then the first step has got to be for people to come back together, recognise each other's needs and grievances, stop slagging each other off, and move forward from there. Alright. Currently there is a stalemate on Mill Road over the situation I wrote down. Anyway, other issues and comments which were given to me on this evening. There is a private MRI scanner going into the old Tesco building, and this is annoying to people. I did basically say I would need to know more about it. I understand the basics, the very, very basic of the situation in a nutshell, but I don't understand where the MRI is coming from, what company it is that wants to put it in there, why indeed they're putting it in there, and also why people have got a problem with it. I think basically they think that it's because it's a private healthcare clinic. There's not actually a good use for the space. It could have gone to a better use, like maybe more shops or affordable housing or something like that, or even maybe an NHS clinic. I haven't got an opinion on that matter at this moment. Residents' parking scheme has stalled in the area. There are cargo bikes blocking the pavements due to lack of parking spaces. Well, the solution to that one seems obvious to me, but we'll get to that later. Oh, I put this all in one go. Concerns over the use and type of development of the Romsey Labour Club. Then could we get some Christmas lights along Mill Road? Could we get some CCTV for safety? Could we get the potholes fixed? Could we get enforcement of rules? So that night left me with lots to think about. Okay. I actually spent the next 2 days basically just digesting and processing everything that I'd heard in the first 2 sessions. And it was really during this period of time that I realised that my offer to Romsey, or my candidacy, what my candidacy can offer, has to be refined. My understanding of what I'm able to offer has changed considerably since the beginning. And actually, if I could boil it down to one thing, it would be to break this loggerhead, break this stalemate, and to start to bring those conversations back round, and hopefully to have them in a more mutual and amicable manner than has currently happened or previously happened. And I just put it straight down to the fact that people only communicate or argue through social media and through writing. They don't actually come together and talk to each other in person. This is a big problem. The second big problem of that is that if you have a organised clique who are just dead set on one way and will not compromise, that's another part of the problem. There are many ways that we could improve Mill Road, and there are many steps that need to be taken before the ultimate, conclusion is reached. But in order to get through that process, we're going to have to work together and, carefully negotiate the different needs. But then, of course, I started thinking more in terms of what else there is important in Romsey, and not just the Mill Road issue, because clearly the Mill Road issue is a dominant issue at the moment. And so when I went back out again for the next round of canvassing, I decided that I wouldn't focus so heavily on that, and I started being much more neutral in just opening my ears, knocking on the door and saying, "Hi, can you just tell me, do you want to just tell me anything that you think is important for the councillors to know about?" So it was much more of an open question, really. So then we get on to the results of that day. Hold on a moment. Okay, so this day I went down to Argyle Street instead. I figured that rather than working my way around from the top comprehensively, which would leave me with the danger of making it halfway around and not reaching the other side, I thought I would go, instead of the top, I would go straight to the bottom. And I started off at the Carter Bridge side and worked my way along Argyle Street. Alright, so I knocked on 91 doors, I had 21 conversations, there were 7 people in favour of closing the bridge and 7 against. And other issues. These are the comments which I received. Safety of walking at night is important. And I also pointed out to this person that one of the complaints about the bridge closing last time was how quiet that side of the bridge was at night. It was quite intimidating for particularly women to walk along. That's just something which I've heard quite a few times. Increased pedestrianisation is a priority for this person. Potholes puncture your bike wheels. Yes, that is a problem. The potholes. We will get back round to that, of course. Constant roadworks, for example, Milton Road. These are a headache. They're a problem. And I think everybody would agree. The current councillor did not listen, but contradicted everything I tried to say. They just don't listen to anything we say. Lorries got stuck down here last time the bridge was closed. This is Argyle Street, remember. So when the bridge was closed, lorries went up, and then there was no signage or a clear way for them to go, so they went down Argyle Street, not realising it was a dead end, and then got stuck and had to carefully back themselves out again, which was a problem. And there's no traffic wardens in enforcement. That's another common theme which is starting to emerge. Pavement parking causes traffic to back up. There's scooters on pavements is a problem. The councillor was, in quotes, unbelievably rude. Drug dealers at night. Deadness of road after bridge closed. Intimidating because so dead. Provide more parking to solve the pavement parking. This is a quote. I just wrote it straight down. She wasn't interested in voting. Her quote, her words were, "The older I get, the less hope I have." Sign of the times, I suppose. This person said closing the bridge will cause traffic chaos. Another person mentioned the pavement parking. Cost of living is the most important thing to this person. But the bridge is the most important local issue at the moment. That was their assessment. DB, that's Dave Bagent, was very helpful for us over some housing developments that we had in this area. There's not enough greenery on the streets. Potholes again. Begging on the streets. And this person said they're new to the area but are interested in learning more. They're going to come along to the hustings, I think, or one of the open evenings. Overtaking on the bridge is an issue. They need better bus routes. The transport is unreliable. They wrote to the council once and got nowhere. Closing the bridge is unfair to residents on this side. Remember, this is Argyle Street. So the equivalent effect of somebody living on Devonshire Road is that they still have access to the town side. But if you live on Argyle Street, when they close the bridge, you have to take the long way round if you want to go that way. And it's just not fair. And also people in that area, this person told me, they depend on the shops on Mill Road within walking distance. And if the bridge closes and those shops suffer and close, then they will lose the shops which they depend on. And therefore they will have to drive to go to the shops. This person mentioned the state of the pavements. Gutters and drains are never maintained. There's no enforcement on the roads. The bridge closure could have benefits, but would be, in quotes, a pain in the arse. Not a pragmatic or practical solution, they said. Potholes are getting huge. Would have benefits and drawbacks, that's the bridge. Homelessness is the biggest problem. Pavement parking is dangerous. There's a post box falling over. That all the traditional shops are actually gone, and everything is just turning into hairdressers and cafes. Like there's no bakers and butchers and things anymore. Well, they're certainly on their way out. Or the hardware store, for example, Cutlax has gone too. These are just the economic climate that we're living in, I think. And these are the things that older residents certainly notice. And then this last guy talked quite extensively about his house overheating in the summer. And then again, that was just a totally other topic. But basically, the houses on Mill Road, not only on Mill Road, but a lot of houses in Britain, were not built with high summer temperatures in mind. And now we're getting to the point when we're breaching 40 in July and August. Some of these houses are actually dangerously overheated. This gentleman had to go to the council to help him pressure his landlord into adjusting the ventilation in his roof and his windows because his house was getting dangerously hot. And then his landlord tried to evict him. And so he had to go to court, and then he won the court case, and then the landlord was told to make the changes to the houses and still currently hasn't. And so again, this is just another one of those problems which is it's far less frequent, but at the same time it's very important if you are experiencing it. And so again, for me it was just good feedback. It's always good to hear these things. I'm amazed about some of the things that people are telling me. And it's all good information, I suppose. So that's day 2. Those are the results from Argyle Street. That's the end of day 2. Okay, now we're slowly getting towards the end of the first week. Okay, so this was yesterday's session. It was day 3 of canvassing. And on Cromwell Road, I knocked on 68 houses, spoke to 13 residents. There were 5 in favour of the bridge closing, 4 against, and 3 on the fence. Or dare I say, on the bridge. But we won't go there. They're undecided, agnostic, ambivalent, not sure. Anyway, so this, again, as the days have progressed, I've become a lot less focused on the bridge. I skip over I asked the question about the bridge to start with, and then just want to skip right over to what else is important, because I'm now at this point I'm genuinely intrigued and actually wanting to know, regardless of where you sit on the bridge debate. I still want to know what you think about other things. And because there are some now, after 3 days of information, there are common themes emerging. And so by the time we get to the end of this month, I shall actually have quite a good summation of what important policy areas need to be sort of aimed at. All right, so here's what we were told on this day. When I say we, of course, I'm talking about the royal we. I go out on my own. But you, the listener, you are with me, so we were told this all together. So, the state of the pavements. Again, it's the pavements, it's the infrastructure, it's the lack of maintenance. Potholes. Road markings have faded away, so people park on double yellows and don't even realise it. There's no enforcement of parking. The overdevelopment in Cambridge. Now, I was waiting for somebody to say this. Overdevelopment in Cambridge is genuinely a concern, a cause for real concern, and especially if you balance it together with the knowledge that there's water scarcity, and our transport infrastructure is overburdened as it is. You're gonna just keep packing more people into Cambridge. How's it gonna go? Yes, and then now here we have the Beehive Centre mentioned for the first time. And suddenly it occurs to me now that losing the Beehive Centre is going to be probably a more major issue than the bridge will ever be. Excuse me. Because at the moment, that's a massive, major, very useful utility which services thousands of people, not only car users, but people within walking distance as well, want to go over there and they can get their big weekly or monthly shop, and they're going to get rid of it. And even though they say they're going to replace it with something else, it's going to be a 10-year project. So they're actually proposing to remove the beehive centre and replace it with a construction site for a good number of years. So there are going to be a lot of residents lose out. So this person said it would be awful to lose the beehive centre. And I can't help but agree. The younger generation can't afford to rent or buy in Cambridge. Unless they have a good salary, of course. But mostly, people who were born and raised here, they just struggle to get out of their parents' houses, really. Balaclava wearing scooter drivers. Yes, just eat and deliver and what have you. He feels intimidated. Hang on. Wait. Dog's eating stuff. What's next? The community spirit has gone away. His words were, fences used to be a lot lower. Probably physically as well as metaphorically. The community has been separated by the bridge issue. The bridge closure literally cuts the community in half. Parking on the roundabout at Cromwell Road is a problem. It makes it quite an awkward turning. There's speeding along Cromwell Road. That they would like things to become more pedestrian and cycling friendly. There's no bus service up this way. They're worried about the beehive going. There's no enforcement of rules. Oh, hang on a minute, sorry. We've got, this person says all in one go. Enforcement of rules, enhancement of parking, allow for deliveries. Lots of good solutions available, but the council and the GCP are not good at getting things done effectively. Right, now, I'm actually going to put a circle around this and a star, because this is important, right? Not just the way that I've written it down, obviously, but this was with a conversation about a guy who I mentioned before, and he actually has a background in town planning and traffic management. He's an expert and he's a freelance consultant. And I was just like, well, why haven't you been? Why don't you go into the council? And I actually, he had so many good points to make. I was sort of fascinated. My eyes opened widely with interest about some of the things that some of the solutions that have been used in other towns, including Singapore. There's smaller little mitigating mechanisms which you can put into a street to improve the traffic flow, to improve the congestion. And with regard to Mill Road, he said there's lots of ways that we could have gone about, or that they could have gone about it. It's just that the council didn't go about it in the right way at all. You can't just close the bridge and that's it, without showing people where the next stages are going to be and how it's going to progress forward. They just went straight forward and just bang, closed the bridge. But then they didn't put in any other mitigating schemes to show that this was going to be an overall improvement of the thing. Anyway, I can't say it as good as he did it, but he did actually give me his contact information and said he was up for meeting up and talking later on. So I put a circle around this and a star because I'm going to return to this guy just to pick his brains a little bit and maybe possibly even work with him in the future. That's if I was actually elected, because it's folks like him who would become invaluable to how you're actually going to solve these problems, because they've done it before in other cities. Anyway, now let's go on. Stop using pesticides, this one person said. That's important to him. I think a lot of people would agree with that too, because it harms the bees and the biodiversity of the area. Do not spray the curbs and the pavements with pesticides, please. The potholes again. Affordable housing is most important. Vinery Road should not have been closed. The money is spent on the wrong things. Services get cut. And there's lack of maintenance. Closing the bridge only transfers the problem. They don't want to lose the beehive centre. Too much overdevelopment. A speed sign disappeared a while ago. Displacement of traffic when Mill Road Bridge closed. Speeding along Cromwell Road. Drug dealing in the park during the day whilst kids are around. It's not a good look. Nothing maintained or cleaned. Coldham's Common is flooded like a swamp and their disabled neighbour cannot get across. Mill Road Bridge is the most important issue at the moment. And then that was Cromwell Road, and I kept Sedgwick Street lit down there at the bottom on its own. I hardly even included it because of all the houses I knocked on, I got one result, and it was this MRI scanner for private healthcare, not NHS. Okay. All right. So that's 3 days worth. These are the sort of feedback. This is the sort of feedback which people are giving me when I ask them to just open their mouths, give me their honest opinion on things, and I'm jotting them down in bullet points like this. And as you've probably seen, if you have just sat down and listened to all of this, there are themes emerging. I think the potholes and the general maintenance of Cambridge, because that links in with lack of enforcement, that links in with the drug dealing in the parks, that links in with speeding and pavement parking, things like this. This is connected to a much longer term general malaise in upkeep and maintenance. And the council doesn't actually do regular sweeps. It doesn't do regular, little and often enforcement activity. And we've kind of arrived at a place where it's been slacking off for so long that these problems are actually starting to become, I suppose, pathological. So that's connected to a deeper issue, I suppose, of funding and resource management, which also connects to the complaint that the money gets spent in the wrong places. You know, how can they be putting in £2 million Dutch-style roundabouts, or doing all of these changing of bike lanes, or refurbishing or revamping the market square when nobody really wants it? And they have money for all of these mega projects, yet the council don't do the basics. They don't keep up the basic maintenance of the city. And that doesn't just include potholes and curbstones, which obviously are important, but the sort of social maintenance, I suppose. You need to have enforcement officers, you need to have community support officers, you need to have people keeping the streets clean, you need to have a presence in places so that drug dealers don't feel comfortable enough to congregate in daylight hours whilst children are around. All of these things are connected, and so, like I said, the data which I'm getting is now starting to formulate into these little kind of themed categories. Overdevelopment, losing the Beehive Centre, the manner in which the GCP and the council have gone about the congestion charge, and also the Mill Road Bridge thing. It divides the community and it upsets people and it destroys their trust. All of the different divergent needs and wishes of the people will have to be kind of balanced and mitigated at some point, instead of just the predominant lobby, as it were, getting their way over everyone else. Actually, there needs to be a recognition that everybody has needs, and there's a way of going about things. You don't just tell people, you don't just force people, or you don't just punish people, and you don't just penalise them. Actually, there's a more important work which is not being done in Cambridge. And again, I think this all links into the lack of maintenance and the lack of care. The money is going into the wrong places. The attention is not being put into where it matters. And I suppose you could say, me doing this survey I've found is important. Me just surveying and asking questions to me is more important than winning an election. I don't want to win an election. I'm not here electioneering. I'm using the opportunity that this election is giving me to get closer to the people, and closer to the source of information, closer to the data, you see. And people have got so much to say, and little of it is good. And I would suggest that we have a political class in Cambridge which is basically aloof, detached, out of touch, wayward. That's not to say that there aren't brilliant counsellors, the guys who've been doing it for 20 years in their small areas, in their capacity, have been trying to represent as best they can. But let's be honest, Cambridge is being taken over, or is being drawn away from its kind of grassroots needs. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to ramble on anymore today. I'm tired of it. But there you have it. These are the results so far. This is after 1 week of campaigning. I use the word campaigning quite loosely. Just to remind everybody, this Tuesday I'm going to be at the Brook at 6:30. The following Thursday I'm going to be at the Empress, and then the following Thursday after that is the hustings on the 25th at the Ross Street Community Centre. And really, I'm doing this surveying, I'm gathering this data because I'm trying to feed my knowledge. I want to understand better. I don't like just having arguments based on stats and statistics, which can be twisted and weaponized, which so often is what happens. People end up just arguing over numbers. I'm sick of that. I actually want to hear what you think. I actually want to know what you have to say. And I'm listening to people. And I suppose if there was one thing which could set me apart from the current councillors, it's that. I'm actually listening. I'm asking you questions and I want to know the answers. Simple as that, really.